Hello students, now let's get into the art of answer writing class 3. So in yesterday's class, what we have discussed is that we got the basic idea about the term called define. And in today's class, we are going to see how to approach a question whenever the word describe has been came. So when we are getting the word describe, so how to approach this word is being seen in this today's session. So whenever the word describe has been given, you need to give a detailed account. So you need to explain the process and also you need to highlight it with various examples. Why? Because you can explain or give narrative completely only whenever you have mentioned about the examples properly. And along with that, you need to explain the mechanism. The mechanism why something is being happening daily is being explained when the word describe has been given, along with laying out the structural features. Now we'll get a clear idea of how to approach the question whenever the word describe has been given. Here, see, first and foremost thing, as I already told you, first thing what you need to do is that try to break the question and identify the number of segments that are being asked in the question. This is the first step what you need to do in this particular thing. So here they are asking about describe the structural and functional characteristics of Himalayan river systems and trace their economic significance for North India. Economic significance for North India. So there are total 3 parts. So 3 parts have been discussed in the question. One is structural characteristics and another is functional characteristics and one more thing is economic significance. One more thing is economic significance. So these are the 3 parts that have been highlighted in this particular question. Now let's see, whenever these type of questions has been given, what type of introductions are suitable and what are different body parts that are being used. So first and foremost thing is that introduction. So how can we introduce? So in the introduction, what we can do is that we can start with the example based introductions in this particular question, and also we can use context based introductions by explaining the significance using this particular example. Let's say for example, we can start the introduction by writing like various rivers, especially the rivers like Ganga, Yamuna, Brahmaputra are Himalayan in origin, which has very good economic significance because of their structural and functional characteristics. So that is how I have mentioned the examples here, and I also link it to the terms in the question. So as I already told you, whenever you are writing any kind of introduction, you must link it with the words that have been given in the question instead of directly taking the words and putting in the introduction. You should link it with proper examples. Okay, so this is what one way of introduction. And another way of introduction is context based or significance based introduction. So here you can mention that since Himalayas has origined a very long years and ago, and these are the youngest folded mountains on earth, they are having some specific characteristics which will be helpful for the country like India because of their characteristics. So here I am mentioning about the timeline and its characteristics in the introduction. This is the second way of introduction. So you can select any of the type of introduction based on your usage and also based upon your convenience. Now let's get into the body part. So how can we approach the answer here? So the first and foremost thing is that there are three parts. One is the structural features, and another one is the functional characteristics, and last one is the economic significance. Economic significance. So these are the three subparts of the given question. So while writing the answer, we need to put different types of subheadings for each and everything. So first start with the structural characteristics of the Himalayan systems. So don't write just structural characteristics. This is the wrong way. So you need to mention full thing like structural characteristics of Himalayas. So write full heading like this, side heading. Now first and foremost thing, we need to write in this particular way. Let's say for example, first structural characteristic is antecedent reverse, antecedent nature of reverse. So while explaining this antecedent nature of rivers, we need to mention that since Himalayan rivers has origined in very long ago, these landforms has formed before the origin of rivers. So these rivers do not change their flow or characteristics with respect to the landforms. So this is the antecedent nature of the Himalayan rivers, what we need to do. And one more nature is that youthful stage of the rivers. Means the rivers which are present in the Himalayas are in their youthful stage. Now I get this into next point. Since because of the youthful stage of the rivers, these rivers forms V-shaped valleys. V-shaped valleys. So always remember, rivers get into three types of stages: young age, matured age, and the old age. So at particular stage of the river, the landforms that is being formed by the river varies. So here, since this is the young stage of the river, so V-shaped valleys are being formed, and along with the, because of the tortuous flow, here meandering of the rivers will happen. Meandering of rivers will happen, and this result in the formation of various other features like oxbow lakes. Oxbow lakes. So this is how we can write this as one particular third characteristic and fourth characteristic and fifth characteristic. But what I did here is that I have linked it in a proper way. So one by one, I have linked how structural characteristics have led to the formation of this particular feature called oxbow lakes. So you can diagrammatically represent this as youthful stage of rivers have led to formation of V-shaped valleys. So this resulted in the meandering of rivers led to formation of the oxbow lakes. Oxbow lakes. So this is how you must link the one point to another point in a cyclic format. So this is how you must explain the structural characteristics of the Himalayan rivers. Now let's see how we can efficiently write about functional characteristics. So here, before going to write the functional characteristics, we need to have basic ideology on the structural characteristics, because instead of without knowing the knowledge on structure and formation of the Himalayan rivers, it is very difficult to write the functional characteristics. So now we'll write functional characteristics of Himalayas. So the main functional characteristics of Himalayas is that they are perennial in nature, means the rivers flow throughout the year. Instead of flowing on one particular season, rivers flow throughout the year. This is the main characteristic and also the characteristic that makes the Himalayan rivers separate from the rivers, especially in the Deccan Plateau or the South India. So this is the one of the major features or functional characteristics of the Himalayan rivers. And along with this, since these rivers are young rivers, now but the thing is that I am linking the structural characteristics and the functional characteristics, because as I already explained with you, in order to explain the phenomenon of functional characteristics, we need to have knowledge on the structural characteristics. So here I linked these youthful characteristics as because of youthful nature of Himalayas, they deposit huge amount of sediments, or the sediment load. Huge amount of sediments are being deposited because of the structural characteristics of the youthful age of the Himalayas. So this is how you must link. Okay, so this is how you must link. And also it led to formation of various other landforms. Now, since this question is positive connotation, now if you understand, the nature of the question is the positive thing. But if in case the question is in the balanced format, let's say if it has been given in the another kind of the word that we are going to discuss in the next thing, let's say here discuss has been given. So if the word is discuss here instead of describe, here the word is discuss, we must also discuss about the positives and negatives. So here, while writing the negatives for this question, we can also mention about occurrence of floods because of frequent changing of the ways that which the river is being flowing. Let's say for example, Bihar. Kosi is the sorrow of Bihar. Okay. So Damodar is the sorrow of Bengal. So this is how we will integrate positive and negative points. Let's say submergence of areas because of this particular thing, and also occurrence of the earthquakes, and this particular area is a landslide prone area. So you must write these negatives when the word discuss has been given. But here the word is describe and the question is of positive significance. So you must not provide negatives here. So must not provide. So put that thing in the mind. Keep that in the mind. You must not give negative things in the answer. Now here we have done with structural characteristics and functional characteristics. Now we must mention about the economic significance. So we must mention about the economic significance of Himalayan rivers, especially for North India. Now the third part is the economic significance of Himalayan rivers. So in this perspective, what we can do is that we can mention about how Himalayan rivers significance to formation and increase of agricultural produce. Now link it with the Indo-Gangetic plains. Indo-Gangetic plains by drawing a proper diagram by highlighting the region. So this particular Indo-Gangetic plains you must highlight and mention the diagram by specifying it in the proper box by mentioning figure of Indo-Gangetic plains or the areas where Himalayan rivers flow. And along with this, it acts as a major tourism spot. Because of various landforms that has been formed because of the Himalayas, it acts as the tourism hub which holds economic significance for the people and also for the country. And there is a huge amount of fishing and resource potential. Fishing and resource potential for the country like India. And along with this, you can also mention about advantages to ecosystem. Let's say, for example, various flora and fauna which is acting as a hotspot. So you need to mention about various different kinds of economic significance of the rivers. Now, one thing what you need to keep in your mind is that here we have mentioned about structural, we have mentioned about the functional, and we have also mentioned about the economic significance. And now, balancing of the points, balancing of the answer is one of the major issue. Let's say here I have mentioned about 2 points, and in the second point I have done a cyclic format. In functional I have mentioned about 3 points, and here I have mentioned about 4 points. So at least try to balance this particular thing. So here if we have mentioned some points, the number of points must be same, like almost same. You should not increase the number of points in one, and you should not reduce the number of points in one. Let's say, for example, in this part of the question, if I have written only 1 point, automatically I am showing myself to the examiner that I am unaware of this particular third part of the question. So don't show it to the examiner. Don't show it to the examiner that you are not aware of that particular point. So try to write and highlight the giving equally importance to all types of questions that has been asked in this question. Now, we have mentioned about structural, functional, economic significance. So describe has been done, and we have given one diagram, and we have started with the example in the introduction. Now, how can we conclude? So, how can we conclude this particular answer? So, we can conclude it in a positive way. Remember, do not mention the side heading called conclusion. So, we can conclude in a positive way by balancing that Himalayan ecosystem, particularly Himalayan rivers, provide huge amount of significance to India because of its characteristics. It has a scope for country like India in order to provide and in order to get enrich of the economic benefits. Okay, so we must protect our sensitive ecosystem like Himalayas, which are lifeline of India. So here I have balanced, or I have concluded by mentioning about the whole thing, whatever I have discussed in the characteristics, and I have concluded it with the word called lifeline of India. So Himalayan ecosystem and Himalayan rivers are lifeline of India because many number of people's livelihood depends upon the Himalayan and Himalayan rivers. So this is how we must conclude in a positive way by using the specific word. So let's have a recap of this. So in the introduction, I have started with example-based introduction or context-based introduction. Example and context-based introduction, and in the body part, what I did is that I divided into 3 parts: structural characteristics, functional characteristics, and economic significance. And I linked structural with the functional characteristics, and I have mentioned one diagram here. And in the conclusion, what I did is that I have balanced the entire answer, and I also end with a particular word. So in the daily newspaper analysis, I am telling you to highlight some of the words which I have been highlighting in the green color. So try to note down that particular kind of words. So those kind of words which will help you in enriching of your answers. Enriching of your answers especially. So those words you can use in your conclusion. So this is what we should write, or we should approach a question while we are using the word called describe. Why? Because we need to give detailed narrative or account. So that is the reason why we must link with the structural with the functional characteristics. This is how you should approach. And remember, if the word discuss has been given in the same question, then we must also provide the negative points. or the negative consequences of the Himalayan rivers. So this is what you should learn about this particular answer. Balancing, example, diagrams, using a flowchart and using a proper word of the ending, by ending with the proper word. So this thing we have learned about the five things from this particular question. This is about the word called describe. In the next class, we'll discuss about the word called discuss by having proper examples. Okay. So please like, share and subscribe to Vayu IAS Academy, and thank you. Let's continue the session in the next classes. Thank you.